what's up? It's the Brie Show. How are you, Brie?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Well, thank you for being on All in the Fam. We know that you are like one of our number one fans. You always shout us out, so we
I
appreciate
do.
it. So yeah,
Yeah, I love your podcast.
we wanted to return the favor and have you on for this visionaries season. So let's get into it. So obviously we know each other through the same circles, UIC. You are a swimmer. And now I don't know if you were into art as you grew up, but it's so cool to see like a left brain, right brain person using both their athletic skills and artistic skills. So like why art and how is that contrast to swimming?
Well, I've always been a very emotional person. I used to think it was a flaw. Like I thought that it was something that kind of held me back because I just was emotional all the time. My mom used to make fun of me because she'd be like, Brie will cry at literally anything. She like just takes everyone else and how everyone else is feeling and just puts it on herself. Um, so the only way I was really able to manage that was through drawing and painting and writing when I was younger. And then the interesting thing about swimming, and I think specifically for what I swam, because I swam distance events, so my head was always in the water, and I kind of had to keep myself entertained because I'd have these like 2.5 hour practices. You're staring at a black line at the bottom of the pool. And so especially when I was really younger, I would like come up with plays. I had a whole year where I would come up with raps while I was swimming and like songs. And it was good because I was like letting out a lot of my physical energy, but I was also able to be super creative while I was doing it. And I'm not sure if that's like something that a lot of swimmers do, but I know for myself, I was like really useful and helpful, and I don't know. And then I've always been super creative. In college, I did graphic design. And then I met Malik, and he invited me to a creative group. And so I was kind of able to like find myself within there. And now I just want to paint. So
That's awesome.
Do you remember any of your raps?
no,
Yeah, go ahead and throw out the bars, Brie. Go ahead. Go
no.
ahead. Maybe Lico can be your manager now.
Yeah, I don't think so.
so so you studied graphic design at UIC?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. So how does that with everything going on now, do you feel like studying that gave you value, or do you think that like your artistic ability just came out naturally even before you studied graphic design?
Um, I think it was helpful in how I can take ideas and organize them. Um, I think it took me probably a few months after college for me to realize that like I don't think I want to have a job in graphic design. I still enjoy it, but I'm a little bit too free spirited, and graphic design is pretty technical. So I can do it. You know, I've done logos for people and I enjoy it, but painting is so like freeing. And graphic design just kind of gave me the tools to say, this is the message I want to give with this painting. How do I make a composition so that that can read well to my audience? And I think if I wouldn't have done graphic design, a lot of my paintings would kind of just be like spitting things out without like, it like really helped with like color theory and, you know, layout. And so it was useful, but I definitely wanted something a little bit more creative and a little bit more my own to work on. So went into painting.
That's awesome.
So, what was your very first creation? Like, can you describe the process of like how that went?
Um, well, it's so crazy because I've been painting for so long and drawing for so long that if you were to ask me what my first creation was, like I really wouldn't know. I used to make birthday cards for my family every year. So that was like and I would just like draw like Mickey Mouse or like something that they really liked. But I think the first like real painting I made was in high school, and it was the first time I was like, oh, I'm like pretty good at this. Like, I think like I really know I enjoy it and I love it, but I think I'm like actually kind of good. And I painted a scenic painting of Boston, which was like kind of random, but I'd been on vacation there the year before and I really liked it. So I painted that. And my high school art teacher was awesome. Like, I owe all of my like technical abilities to him. He was so great, and I would just have like 10 billion questions for him every second. I'd be like, how do I do this tree? How do I put the yellow in it? You know, but it ended up looking so good. And I was like, I think I want to run with this. So yeah.
Speaking of cards, I still have the Christmas card that you made last year. It's still on my bulletin board in my room. I love that piece. It's great.
Thank you. Yeah.
So did you paint that and then like digitally just print it out for everybody? Or did you like do every individual one?
I used to like hand draw all of them, and then I got an iPad, which has been awesome. Because it is a little hard to like scan paintings and make it look really nice into prints. So a lot of my like greeting cards and Christmas cards I do digitally, and I mean on the iPad. So I'm still drawing, but it's better for like rendering and printing.
Got you. Okay, look at you.
How your work is like different from, you know, the first piece that you made now? I mean, from what you made in the beginning to what you make now, what is your favorite piece that you've made like overall?
Last year, yeah, I guess it's last year. I feel like I have no concept of time anymore. But I think last year I painted a 5 foot by 4.5 foot piece of Icarus, which was about the man who flew too close to the sun and ended up falling. And I kind of did a different take where I felt like maybe there would be some hope that he lost some feathers on his wings, but there's a chance maybe he could fly away and he would have learned his lesson. Because it is kind of like a sad ending to the story. And it took me 100, maybe 25, 50 hours. So it was huge. It took forever. And I just think it's a really pretty piece, and it really helped me gain confidence because I didn't know how people would feel about it, and then I posted it, and so many people were like, "Whoa, we didn't know you were that good." I was like, "Me either, honestly." Like, I kind of pulled it out of nowhere, but you know.
Yeah. That's awesome with creativity. I feel like a lot of creatives, they don't know they're creative until they get that validation. But it can kind of be a double whammy where some people create for validation and you kind of don't want that. You want to create to create. But it's kind of interesting that in your case, it was that validation and you're like, whoa, I am good.
Yeah.
And I look at your art all the time. I'm like, dang, I want to buy that. I want to buy that. I want to buy that. Explain the piece behind you, actually, because that's one of my favorites.
Oh, this one's brand new. She's getting picked up tomorrow, so just letting her dry. This was a commission, and they wanted it to be abstract, and they actually were inspired by the piece I made for Malik, which was like the first time I'd ever taken an abstract and really run with it and added like a little bit of icons and some personal messages. And so he was like, I love that painting you did. I want one for myself. And so I knew him a little bit. I know him, pretty well, but I asked him like a bunch of stories about his grandfather, who's really important to him, his life in Chicago, his goals, his dreams, like, what he's been up to. And so I kind of just intermixed everything that he told me. And I tried to make like a story out of an abstract piece. Because I think a lot of times and I don't think it's fair because I do love abstract and I paint a lot of abstract work, and people are like, I don't get it. And that's totally fair. I mean, like, it's a totally fair response. And I wish that, you know, it made people feel things more often, but this was kind of a way of like intertwining my pop art, you know, character kind of style into the abstract pieces where I'm literally just like throwing paint around and have like a boppin' playlist on and kind of just like trying to get some emotions out. It's a good way to like mix the two and have like kind of a brand new style, which is fun and awesome.
That's great. Yeah, I love all your abstract paintings. So like tell the fam who is the Brie show? Like what's the story behind the name the Brie show? Because if you're on the show, like can you invite us so we can be on it? Like what's it?
I feel it's weird because I feel like the name is not so humble, and I wouldn't call I mean, I would say I'm like pretty humble when it comes to my art. But when I was my freshman year of college, I was walking through a parking lot with one of my teammates, and I think I was a little bit under the influence, which is like the only time I'll actually like sing super loud. I'll just sing, you know, I don't care. I'll dance. Like I'm pretty free spirited. And so I started singing, and he was like, can you sing too? Like, what's going on? Which you know, I'm sure like I can hit a few notes. I'm not a singer by any means, but he's like, you're an incredible swimmer. You can paint. And now we find out you can sing. Like, this is the Brie show. And so for the rest of the semester, they would call me the Brie show when I'd like show up to practice. And I just thought it was funny. So I changed my like personal Instagram account to the Brie show, and just like as a joke. And then I kind of was like, this is kind of catchy. Like, I like it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I like it. And then I started actually charging people for paintings and for art. And I was like, what do I call myself, you know? And then the Brie show just had always stuck. So
Hey, that's awesome.
yeah.
So what drink led you to sing?
Oh, true. Was it tequila? Was it vodka?
I
We
was
gotta
thinking tequila.
be on your level when we hang.
Always tequila. It's
Yes.
always tequila.
Great answer. Great answer. So it looks like we are going to be hanging out soon.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my drink of choice.
So from hearing what you're saying, you put a lot into your work and, you know, detail wise. What role do you feel like the artist plays in society?
Personally, I think it goes back to me being super emotional. And I think as a society, we've gotten better, but I don't think everyone has been very open with it's not really been like a very normal thing to be super open with your emotions, and especially like your mental health. And I think artists provide a way to communicate those things and a way to relate to people. And it's very subtle. I think sometimes with movies and TV shows, they can kind of like, you know exactly who the characters are in the storyline and what's going on with them. And I think with art, it's a little bit more mystery. And a lot of people can view art and say like, I don't know why, but this speaks to me on a profound level. And someone next to them can say the same thing, like this speaks to me on a profound level, and it's for two totally different reasons. But it can like just completely grab at someone's heartstrings, and you know, it can relate to a story that they have. And I don't know, I think that's really cool.
So like
so I think artists are here to communicate. And
cool. I hate Zoom because it lags on our end. So
yeah.
I don't so how would you say people are attracted to your art in particular? Like, is there a certain message that you want to convey that you want people to feel when they see your art? What do you do to attract people with your pieces?
I don't think it's like so weird to answer these questions because I feel like I'm so insecure about people, actually liking my stuff. And it seems like there's, there's a lot of people making art. So for me to like look at my art and say, this is why people love it. It's like so hard for me to say that. But I do think when I do commissions specifically, I try really, really hard to get to know the person that I'm making the art piece for, and making sure that it really does resonate with them. If someone wants a portrait of them and their wife on their wedding day, I don't want to just paint the picture that they give me. I want to ask, like, what's her favorite flower? How did you guys meet? What are some little things that I can include to make it like really personal? Because if you want a painting of a photo, then you might as well just get a photo blown up super big and put it over your fireplace. You know what I mean? Like the difference is that making that connection with someone else and really forming a relationship and forming a strong connection with them. I have someone who I've done a few commissions with now, and he lives in Tennessee. I've never met him. He found my Instagram page and had me do some things for him. And like, I really feel like if I saw him walking down the street, I'd be like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, I don't know him, but I know him, because I feel like it's important to ask questions and get to know the person that you're really making the work for.
Exactly, man. The power of Instagram too, because that's how we met. We
Yeah.
weren't in the same circles, but like we literally met each other for the first time at that gallery show that Malik was presenting at. And
which is so funny because for the longest time too, Malik's been like, he would tell his story and he'd be like, Brie, and I'm like, who is, and he's like, oh, my cousin's name is Brie too. Yep. I'd be like, oh, okay. Yep. But I'd never met you.
Exactly. He would always talk about you, and he would be like, Brie. I was like, Brie who? He'll actually say the Brie show. I was like, who? But it's so funny. So I was like, let me just follow this girl on Instagram, and now here we are, each other's biggest fans. So
So who are your biggest influences? Do you have any influences when you make your art, or anybody that you looked up to, their styles, anything that you liked about their styles and how they work?
Right now I have quite a few. There's an artist, and she just goes by BB Art. She lives in Tampa. And I actually had the opportunity to speak with her on the phone, and she kind of just gave me some words of wisdom and advice. She was coming up. My dad like met her in an airport, and she was like, I'm an artist. They're sitting at the same airport bar. And he's like, my daughter's an artist, which like at the time, like, barely, just kind of like doing my thing. And so she gave me a call, and I've been following her stuff, and she's completely blown up. And especially from an entrepreneur side of things. She's just really smart. She's really smart with marketing her art. She's really smart with making, huge art pieces that cost a ton of money that only a few people could buy, and then having things that are more of like what you call your merch. So she's really like developed her own brand, which I really look to. Obviously Hebrew Brantley was like the first artist when I moved to Chicago. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And he's someone also who's like just created such a big name for himself, which I think is really hard to do as a painter. People don't really pay attention to you until you're, really old or or dead, which is sad, but it's true. Right. Ashley Longshore, she's like super big as well, and her story is amazing. She lived in like a little single apartment, didn't pay for anything except paintbrushes and paint, and just hustled. So all of those people I really look up to, and want to follow in their footsteps a little bit.
Okay. And then what type of art would you identify yourself with? So you do a lot of abstract work. Would you say that is what you gravitate towards more, is abstract art?
I think actually a lot of my influences come from children's books. I read, my mom used to walk in at like 2 a.m. and I'd be reading in the dark. and she would be like, you're gonna be blind, you cannot do this. But I read so much as a kid, and I loved illustration books so much. So I do a lot of abstract. I would call myself an abstract artist, but I also think I have some of that like character design and like pop art kind of style in me too. But I don't like to limit myself because I really like to explore all styles. I don't like to limit myself to just one, because I think you can tell different stories with different types of art.
Right.
So
That's great.
yeah.
So let's say you're not making art for a client, you're just doing art, creating on your own time. What is your design approach? Like, do you do it like on a sunny day, or you're like, oh, I want to paint today? Like, how does that come to
Usually my ideas pop up while I'm on a run. I just had an entire gallery idea, which is like such a huge deal. It would literally take so long, but I was on a run. I was listening to Kid Cudi's new album, and it all just like came to me. And I came home and I just like sketched up all these things. I was like, whenever I have time, like I need to come back to this. And I wrote down like the feelings that I had, all the ideas I had. I sketched out like 4 different art pieces I had thought of in my brain, while I was running. Because it's so hard when you're like, I'm like, okay, I have 3 miles until I get home. I need to hold on to these ideas until then. Which meant that I just had to keep listening to Kid Cudi because I was worried if I like switched up my music that I would be in a different mood. So I was like, okay, we're just gonna re-listen to this album again. We're gonna go over everything I thought of, and then I went home and wrote it all out. But a lot of it's also just how I'm feeling, and I've been reading a book about Earth, the Earth and global warming and eco-consciousness. So I've had a ton of ideas about, telling that, or, talking about that with my art. And so it's kind of just like where my brain is in the couple weeks that, it takes me to get inspired.
I love how it takes 2 art forms to like intersect. So when you said it was Kid Cudi's new album that sparked that idea to do the gallery, I love that the art form of music itself can help a painter, bring ideas into fruition, or like a dancer, you mix dancing and art and so on and so on. I just love how all the arts in general intersect. And I feel like it's so important for people to get out of their bubbles and not limit themselves, because we need inspiration from many art forms. Or even when you said you're reading articles about Earth and global warming, like that's scientific, that's not even art. And that even brought you influence. So it's really, it really brings to light how different artists and creatives process their creativity. Because we were interviewing Edo yesterday. He's another Chicago painter, and he has so many influences that bring him inspiration for his creativity. So I just like picking the brains of creatives. So I'm just going on a tangent, but Kid Cudi's album is amazing. So shout out to you.
It's true though. Like, even I listen to comedy podcasts almost religiously, and I mean, I love it for when I'm painting, because it completely takes me out of, this super emotional side of me, and which I need to, perform. I say perform, but it is kind of like a performance when I'm doing it. But to like perform well, I need to be a little bit more, or a little less out of my head. So I listen to like comedy podcasts, or, I put on like my favorite TV show, which is really good. But it's also, whenever I know that I'm like going to be inspired, when I actually, like you said, get out of my bubble, and read something different, go on a walk, listen to a new album. All of those things contribute to like a new mindset and a new brain and new ideas to be able to come in.
Got you. That's great. That's great. So when you are physically painting, so that's like the process of the ideation. Now, when you're actually creating your paintings, is there a process? Like, how do you go about putting everything that you thought of from ideas to the canvas?
Um, it's I wake up and I like have to clean my room first, which is so weird, but I'm like, I know I'm gonna mess it up with all this art I'm about to do, but it needs to start clean. Um, and then I drink coffee and I take my dog for a walk. Because I have to get like all of those things out of the way first.
Right.
Um, and then it's just like picking colors, putting on the right background noise. Sometimes I like have to give myself affirmations or, you know, give myself a little pump up speech. When I was swimming, I was like super, super crazy about my routine before I would race. And, you know, I'd like hit myself in the chest and in the thighs, and I'd like give my dad a thumbs up. And then I'd like tell myself all these things, and I'd have to listen to a certain song, and I'd have to do a certain amount of claps when I got up on the box. It was like absolutely crazy. So it's not super surprising that I'm like a little bit, you know, weird about how I start before I paint. But yeah, I just have to kind of have that like that rhythm and, you know, in what I'm doing with my day so that it like all comes together. And I have to be in the right mindset because I can really talk myself out of painting kind of fast if I'm like, it's just not there today. I just don't think I could do it.
Do you rap before you paint?
No.
Yeah, we gonna make you rap some bars, Brie. It's gonna come. We gonna make it break.
It's so embarrassing. I'd lose all my credibility.
Yes, we gotta get you some tequila so you can do that.
So how long does it typically take you to like complete a painting? Like, is it weekly? Is it like you get it done in a day? Like, how long does that work for you?
It depends definitely on what style I'm doing, who I'm doing it for, what size the piece is. Like this painting took me probably like 2.5 weeks. And then I have another painting sitting on my bed that's super teeny tiny and the same style as this, and it took me like a day. And then it also, I call them like my Adderall moods, which I'm not taking Adderall, but it's like my brain is on Adderall and I can just wake up and be like, all right, let's go. And then I just am somehow able to paint all day. And then some days it's like, maybe get like 2 hours in. So yeah, it depends on how fast I'm going. But I'd say probably like on average, takes me at least 20 hours to finish a painting.
Do you take like breaks in between? Like, do you have like days off where you're like, I'm not gonna paint today, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And also like I have to work my other job, and it's kind of like a built-in, I work Wednesday through Friday at my other job, which is great because it's like a built-in, like it's kind of like my weekend off painting where I only have to do, you know, those items. And then I get some of the, like the invoice stuff done, or like I try and do marketing. I try and like reach out to people. But yeah, I think breaks are important. I see a lot of people who are like very diligent about, you know, drawing every day and painting every day, or being, you know, getting a piece done every day. And my biggest fear is burning out and then not knowing what I'm going to do. Like I really don't want to burn out. I want to be inspired all the time. I don't want to feel like I don't want to do it anymore. So I give myself those breaks.
Yeah, you never want your passion to be a 9 to 5. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you do, but you don't want it to have that impact on your mental health of a 9 to 5.
Right.
So it's really good that you take breaks between that, because I do know some people who are very creative and they stop for years because they're just so burnt out, and then it's hard for them to get back into that creative spirit. So like my advice to anybody, whatever their creativity is, whatever their art form is, like know that you love it, but find inspiration when it's right, and don't try to, I don't know, just outwork yourself and compete with
Yeah.
the market. Because oh my god, especially with Instagram, there's so much creativity in our faces. Like, oh my god, they're doing this and this and this and this. Now I got to do this and this and this and this. So it's crazy.
I think I heard this on a podcast. I think it's actually I think it's the name of a podcast, but it really spoke to me, and it was Make Art, Not Content. And I think right now it's so hard, and I really get myself into cycles of just feeling so down about myself, because everyone is producing everyone's producing something all the time, and it's always in your face, and you're like, why aren't I making TikTok videos? And all these artists are blowing up on TikTok, and I'm not making enough videos, or I'm not making enough stuff to show off every week on Instagram, and that's why I don't have more followers, or whatever it is. And I have to keep reminding myself that I'm here. My passion is making art, and my passion has never been to make content. The content comes with, the art that actually I'm really proud of. And I don't want to just, make something that isn't my 110% so that I can post it on Instagram tomorrow.
Exactly.
It's not how I want to do things. And like, for the people who are, that's totally fine too. That's like, however fast you can make art, or however much content you want to make, or, you have time for, that's great. And there's a lot of people who love seeing it. It's not my journey. It's not my path. If I ever have a manager, maybe, but that's just not what I want to do. I want to focus my time and my energy on actually painting and actually making the art.
Yeah, because me and Khamari, as creatives with ourselves, we literally had this conversation yesterday after we finished a recording, because we were talking about, because we're transferring the podcast to YouTube. And I was mentioning that I don't want to be a YouTuber. I want the podcast to be on YouTube, because we feel like we give out good quality content, but we're not trying to be the biggest YouTube star. Like, that's not the goal. So that goes on what you were saying, like there's too much content and not enough like realness, quality. So like, we definitely resonate with what you say with that, because it's just so much fluff and everybody's just posting to post. We're not posting these episodes to get 1 million followers, to get 1 million likes. Like, honestly, I could care less. Sure, that'll build our recognition, but like, as long as our episodes are reaching people, even if it's 2, 3, 4, 5, like it reached you, and you're somebody that I know, and that speaks the world to us. So like, we definitely relate on the same level. Like, we're not making paintings, but we're still in the same creative community, so we definitely feel that 100%.
So what do you want your work to say? Like, what do you aim for your work to say when you paint, or when you finish a painting? What is the message that you want to put out there with your art?
Well, I think, like I said, I have so many influences, and I really aim to spread good messages. I do paint to just paint, but a lot of times I really am trying to spread, kindness or justice or love. So I don't know if that's totally visible to the people who see it. But if they don't see that, I at least want them to see how much creativity can mean to people. And for me, like, art, I could say, genuinely saved my life. So it's kind of, my message is like just how much creativity means to me. And I really wish that I was in a place in my life where I could volunteer more and spread that more. And I am definitely looking for those opportunities when I have the actual time, and it's not COVID. But like, it's always been important to me to like, for kids to be able to do that, and because it was so important to me growing up, and it helped me with so much, that I just want everyone to be creative in some way. And I don't know, like, I think that people really psych themselves out in how creative they can be. People are always like, well, and I don't really like this compliment anyways, but when people are like, oh, I could never do that. I'm like, well, I mean, I've been doing this for a really long time, and it's also my job now, but there are forms of creative things you could do that would be awesome for your mental health, and, journaling, or you could go out and, you know, get a canvas and throw paint against it, and whether or not it'll look professionally done or if you want to sell it or not, it's still like such a great practice to have, and that time to self-reflect and have fun. I don't know. But also it's about a lot of, you know, current things that are going on. I try and especially if they are inspiring me, I try and spread good word of, you know, current issues that are going on. And I was very political the last 4 years, because it just was like itching in my brain every day about the state of the world. So I'm sure that read through as well.
Yeah. So talk about Lady Justice. Now that we're on the topic of everything being political in the world, you made a beautiful piece. That is the name of the piece, right? Lady Justice. Am I saying that right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So talk about that. What was basically what was your mental state, the process that you took to create that piece? And for those watching, we'll drop a little image of Lady Justice so you guys can see. So kind of talk about that.
Okay. Well, all of my whole neighborhood was boarded up. You know, and I'd been to a few of the protests. I was pretty involved in understanding what was going on. And I think just similar to a lot of people, I was kind of like, well, I don't know what to do. You know, I want to like be an ally, and I want to be, I want to show my support, but it's also, there's just like such a sense of like hopelessness when it's something as, you know, pivotal as what was happening. But there were all these boards up and people had started to paint on them. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it, because I've said this a few times, but I went to protests and I was like, oh, I'm going to be active in voting, and, you know, I was donating money. But truly how I am able to express myself and show love and is through art. That's like the best way I can show love in any capacity. It's like, if I love someone, I draw them a card. If I, you know, if it's Christmas time, I paint my mom a picture. That's just how I know how to show love. So I actually called Malik and I was like, okay, I'm going to get paint right now. And I'd given the landlord who owned the building a few ideas. And they were like, kind of just like the basic, like the black hand holding the white hand. And he was like, I want you to do that one. I want you to do that. And I called Malik and I was like, I don't feel right about this. Like, it's a great message to share, but I don't want to be like, it's just, you know, if we all just come together and hold hands, it'll all be fine. And it's like, that's not how it is. That's like, there's more to what's going on now. There's anger, there's fear, there's, you know, there's all these things, and 2 hands holding isn't going to cut it. And he said, I think you just need to speak about justice. And I was like, oh, okay. So the first thing I thought of was, you know, the lady, and she has she's holding the balance, and then she has like the snake on her feet. And I just thought, like, how can I make this relevant to now? Because justice just isn't working for everyone. And I want to show Lady Justice how she should be. And that's, you know, delivering justice and speaking for all people. So I got paint and ran over there and painted it in 4 hours, and I don't know. And then a lot of people liked it, and it was really cool.
Would you say that was the art piece that was like, you had the most memorable responses to that? Because your art was everywhere around the city.
Oh, yeah.
Like, first of all, did they ask for permission to put it on the bus stops?
Yeah, they paid me. They paid me for it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they actually like bought the physical piece, which was later. So my original Lady Justice was destroyed, and someone was like, we want to buy that. I was like, okay, just 1 second. Went to Home Depot, got another piece of wood, brought it back to my apartment. I was like doing it on my porch, because the original piece had been taken off the building and put through a wood chipper, so which was really sad. But
Talk about the universe though, to have it destroyed
and
then repurpose. Now I can tell you probably thousands of people know that piece now, and you got commission for it too, which is a plus, especially during the pandemic, when it was hard economically for people. So that's amazing right there. So what other type of memorable responses have you gotten from any of your other pieces?
Well, I think with Lady Justice, the most memorable responses were always just like, thank you. And I think like that just kind of speaks volumes. When someone says thank you, it's because you did something good and you did something to help them. And when you paint, there's not a lot of like, thank you for painting, because it's something that I'm doing, it's like, but for it to like actually speak so loudly to some people that they wanted to say thank you to me, I don't know, I was like, it was just really humbling. It was really an awesome thing to hear. I don't, a lot of responses I hear kind of just, that I guess memorable. That's so crazy. All my most memorable responses are probably from my friends, like people who are just like, we're so proud of you for doing you and doing what you want to do, and sticking to your guns and saying like, I'm going to be a painter. I don't care how much I have to starve, or like how much you have to hustle, or you're just sticking to it, and that's what you want to do, and you're doing it, and we're proud of you. That's probably like the one that I really take to heart the most.
That's awesome. Well, we're proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
You got another one right there.
Put it in the bank.
So we did some research and we looked on your IG too, and we saw that you're getting into animation. So how's that going?
It's interesting. It's another iPad venture. Yeah, I don't know. It was just one day I really was like, this would be kind of fun. I love the Peanuts. I think they're so cute. I've grown up like watching the Peanuts, and then my dog is literally looks just like Snoopy. So he actually, Bernie is the name of my dog. He's named after Bernie Sanders.
Hey.
He's a little socialist puppy. He is the best. He is the best influence I have to practice new mediums, new styles, animation, because he's just like a character in himself. So if I'm like, I want to animate, but I don't know what I want to animate, I don't have anything to like pull off of, what do I do? I'm like, well, just do my dog, just pull my dog, and I can like make him a character in itself. And so he's such a good, super inspired. I'm like, well, I'll just start with Bernie, and then I'll know how to do it, and then I'll take it and run with other ideas I have. So yeah, it was an animation of me and Bernie getting tacos, which super fun. It took me all day, and the animation was like 4 seconds. So I have a lot of respect for animators.
I didn't know dogs had political parties that they can be a part of. So to hear that he's a socialist dog, I'm dead.
Like, bones for everybody. Everyone gets treats.
That's hilarious. So, I mean, in the digital age of Instagram, do you think it's harder or easier to show your work? Because you show your work obviously through Instagram. The more traditional route is galleries. With those being closed, those kind of being inclusive, you got to know who you have to like network to get into galleries and stuff like that. Do you think it's easier showing your work and presenting your work on Instagram and instead of galleries, or do you think it's more of I don't know, it's too, what's the word for it? When it's like saturated. If do you think that Instagram is too saturated at the same time? Like, what's your perspective on that?
It's very saturated. And it also, when you put your art up in a gallery, the gallery chooses you purely because of your art. It has nothing to do with you. When you put your work up on Instagram, they also are looking at your booty, and they're looking at your face, and they want to know, what's up in the comments, like, what you're talking about. And there's a little less mystery of, who is this artist, what is she trying to say. You have the little tag of, why they made the art. But when you're on Instagram, it's almost like they know your entire life. And sometimes that's good, because I think one of the reasons why my art speaks to people is because of my own, challenges with mental health, and people can connect with that. Or the fact that I live in Chicago, people can connect with that. Or, I don't know, I would say I'm a pretty like fun-loving person, but people in a gallery wouldn't know that. So it's good, but it's also, a lot of times I have to question, am I getting followers and people liking my art because my art is good? Or is it because I'm a blonde woman on Instagram, and I don't know, it's like hard to tell like why people like you, or why they want to follow you.
Genuine or superficial, right?
Yeah, and also it also makes me insecure, because I see other pages and I see art that might be similar to mine, or just a little bit different, and they have so many more followers than me, and they're absolutely stunning, gorgeous people, and I'm like, I'm sorry, like, is this like a comment on like your type, or like, am I just not like pretty enough to like be a successful artist on Instagram? So it kind of also takes a dip into my ego, because I really do overthink and question, why I haven't made it big enough, or why I am getting new followers, and what it means.
True.
Yeah.
That kind of goes back into the validation though. So like, do you, I feel like it's much better to reach people than it is to get followers though. Don't you think? Because I feel like your pieces are reaching people, even though you may not have 10 million followers. You're touching people and showing impact, rather than, here's my beautiful abstract painting with 4 colors, but also look at my ass. Like, I feel like you're more genuine. So just give yourself the affirmation, like, you're reaching people
Yeah.
with whatever you're doing right now organically, that evergreen content that you're putting out, with your, whether it's just your social posts, if it's presenting your post, your art through your post, like, it is reaching people. Like, girl, your art was on billboards in Chicago.
Well,
I don't think any of the Instagram influencers billboards were in Chicago. Okay, so definitely.
Which I definitely appreciate. I think that everyone struggles though with who I am online, and who I am in person, and who I want to be, and who I want to be online. And for me, I think one of the things I struggle with is like, even now, like, I don't think I've been very lighthearted on here, but I'm like I'm really funny. I would like to think I am. I'm pretty lighthearted. I'm super, super goofy. Like, I'm a very goofy person.
All Brees are. Come on now.
Yeah, exactly. But like, but when it comes to displaying my art, I'm, it's a little bit more like, solemn and serious. And I'm like, well, I probably should show some of that side as well. So I think people would meet me in person and be like, oh, she's like really goofy. Like, never would have known. Would never know.
Well, it's also you at the same time. So like, you should implement that into your social media as well, because that could make people connect with you more. Like, if that's who you are as a person, put that into your work too. So that can genuinely gain more people as well. So I wouldn't, if your work is serious and you want to take it, that route, of course, don't change that. But if you want people to get to know Brie more and the Brie show, implement that in there. And I feel like that'll make you feel better because you're kind of compartmentalizing yourself into this serious box. And then when that doesn't escalate the way you want it to go, it's kind of frustrating. So put everything, all of you in that, because you're impacting people from your serious side and what you're trying to do. So you never know how far you can reach somebody with putting that goofy side into your work.
Yeah.
Like animation, that stuck out to us because we like animation stuff too, Disney, all that other stuff. We all grew up on that. So those are things that we all have in common. So that could lead more people to you once they see that side to you.
Or I mean, you can just dedicate your whole page to Bernie. I'm pretty sure you'll get like millions of dollars. People love dogs.
Hi. Thought I could leave him alone for an hour. Who would have thought?
Ah, it's okay. Okay.
Bernie makes an appearance.
I'm always curious on how artists price their work. So you do get commissions. Don't by any means like say your price or anything, but like what goes into, okay, this piece is going to be this much, this piece is going to be this much, because like we do services too, and sometimes we have to think like, how much should we charge for this?
The time, the work.
Yeah, it's literally your
labor.
It's literally your labor, but it's also your creative mental state. Like what goes into pricing?
Definitely I start with supply costs first. So I always send the client a minimum payment so that I don't pay for paint and canvas and then have them back out. So I always start with supply costs first. And then it should be about time, but it never is, because I'm a perfectionist and I'm not going to give someone a piece that isn't completely perfect, even if it takes 20 more hours. But if people have a budget, you can't spring that much more money on them. So I do say that I probably give quite a discount to most of my paintings. And it's difficult because I'm in the beginning stages of being an artist. And so I'm experienced, but I'm not, $15,000 a pop experience. That's not, I'm not in that range. And I also have always had a very dedicated goal that I want to make art accessible to people. I think it's important. I don't think that art should be reserved for Michigan Avenue, people going into galleries and picking out their art and spending a crap ton of money on it. I don't think that that's how art should work. Art should be communicated to everyone. And so I don't want a client to come to me and say, I love your art, I'm obsessed with your art. Like, it just would mean so much for me to have this in my apartment. And then, that, like, I want to work with them. I don't want them to feel like, oh, I'm going to have to wait another 20 years before I can get a Brie Show original, because I want my clients to, grow with me. And so that definitely takes a toll into it too. My boyfriend is like definitely a super logical money finance man. Like, he is like, and he's always just like, too small, nope, not charging enough. Like, he is like, you need to charge more, like, you're worth more. And it's really hard to see yourself as that and then also follow that lead, because I do kind of just wish I could like paint for people for free. Not because like I don't want this to be my job, but like I want it to be my job, but I also like, I just don't want art to be so expensive. Right. Even though it is worth it, like, it is my time. It's my time. It's my creative ideas. No one can reproduce it. It's like, it's my work. And I put a lot of like, not only time into it, but like emotional, energy. Like, usually I'm like crying during some of my, I'm like a mess. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like emotional. And I can't even like, so it's both time and emotional energy. And it's worth a lot, but you know, it's hard to charge people what you're worth. I'm sure you guys feel that way all the time.
Yeah. Since you put so much emotion into your work, you just said you know, cry when you do it.
Should
Is
be.
it is it hard to part from your paintings when you do sell them? Or is it like a release and you're like, "Ugh, I'm done?
Right now it's a little bit easier because my studio's in my room and I'm like, we gotta clear up some space.
All right.
It's too much. I have like 6 paintings up against my window right now and it's kind of claustrophobic in here, but I do get sad. It's really sad to, it's like sending your baby off to college kind of. But it's also cool that I know I've had so many great clients and they send me pictures of it in their home and you know they'll reach out and say we still love this piece so much, which always feels good. You know, you don't want to think about your art being hung up somewhere and then they're like, oh, I don't really like it anymore, and they like take it down and put it in their basement. You're like, oh my gosh, it's so sad. Can I have it back? Like I love that. And then my favorite piece in the entire world, which was the first abstract piece I ever did, my mom bought it from me, which, you know, it's like the at the time was the most expensive piece I'd ever sold, and it was to my mom, but it's okay. But like it's at her house, so I get to see it every time I'm there, and it makes me so happy. I'm like, I wish I could just sell all my art to my mom so that I could still see it, just like my own gallery in her house.
So adorable.
So it seems like you have a lot of like support around you. What is your take on how people support artists and like creatives? Like, do you think that they're doing a good job at it? We see it on your, you know, Instagram about how, you know, people need to support the artists. So how do you feel about people supporting creatives?
um I would say, so I do have a lot of support around me. I would say, you know, I have a great family that, you know, really wants me to succeed, and I'm really blessed to have that. My partner is really supportive, really wants my dreams to come true, and I have a few friends that are super great. But I also have a lot of friends who like don't really know how to talk about it and don't really know how to ask me questions or ask me how it's going, and that can be kind of hard. You don't have to, as a friend or as a supporter, you don't have to buy my art for me to feel like you're supporting me at all. Like I would never expect that from anyone. But it's so amazing how far a compliment, or like we were talking about earlier, just the response, having someone say thank you or having someone say I'm proud of you for, you know, going for your dream means the absolute world. Because I would say like 2 weeks out of every month, I am sitting in my room like, what am I doing? Why? Like, I need to apply for jobs. Why do I think I'm going to make it? Or like, am I really that good? It's a lot of self-doubt. And, you know, I listen to a lot of like other artists podcasts or comedian podcasts, and they go through the same thing. And to have a support system reach out and say like, we're proud of you, or like, what are you working on, show us what are you doing right now, we're interested, means more than buying a sticker from me for $3. You know what I mean? And that also matters to me too. I love when people buy my stuff, but just like having conversations and asking me about it, or I don't know, it means a lot more to me when people just like want to be interested in my work and want to talk to me about it. And because it is my passion and I love it so much, and I don't really talk about it that often. I'm usually in my room just doing it. Like I don't really like have conversations with people all the time about being an artist or what I'm working on. It's really just me doing it and then posting it on Instagram and then sending it off to the client. Like I don't really talk about it that often, and I really like to. It's
Yeah.
super
Well,
fun.
now we're gonna stalk you every month to make sure you're working, because keep going. We don't want you to stop and just be in your room and not working.
I do sound like I sound like I'm really down on myself, and I'm not. I think in this phase of everyone's career, especially when you're in your 20s, it's just there's so much self-doubt. Even if you're working as an accountant somewhere, I'm sure every 2 weeks you're like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I here? What is the purpose of life? Like, so I think it's pretty normal. I think the thing with being a freelancer or being an artist is you are completely by yourself. I don't get to walk out to my secretary and be like, do you think I'm doing okay? Or like, how are things looking this month? It's literally just me being like, oh my gosh, I'm running a business by myself and I am terrified. And it's isolating, honestly. But, it's just the other perk is that I don't have to work with anyone. So I'm working by myself is also great.
High key confession, like I think it was last week, I was in that self-doubt mode. I was like, man, I'm doing this podcast, with Khamari. And I was just in the self-doubt. I was like, oh, but do people really care? So I had to like switch it to like, nobody cares to nobody cares.
Exactly.
But I'm still gonna do it. And then I had to like retrain my thoughts. So like, you know what? There's so many people that DM'd us that reshare. And then I had to think about you, like just last week, you posted me on what was it? International Women's Day. I was like, oh my God. So it's like, it's little things like that where we have to remind ourselves, it's like, again, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
But also no one cares.
Some people do care. And those are the people that we have to do it for. So like you posting that, like you resharing our shows, and other people too. Like we really, really, really appreciate that. And that's why we wanted to honestly make this season about creatives, because we wanted to uplift your guys' platforms. Even though our platform may be little, it's still
impacting.
It's still, we're all, everything is repurposed. Everything is repurposed. So like giving your guys' a platform to share your work, show your worth, like that, I feel like we are giving back to you guys by letting you guys be on the show. But honestly, it's reciprocal too, because having these conversations with you guys, I'm like, dang, we got to start writing notes, because now we're inspired by just talking to you guys. So I just love the creative community in Chicago.
And we're not alone either. Like some of the things that we're hearing you all talk about, we've gone through it too. So I think just allowing yourself to feel those feelings, and then, after that day or two, you step back into why you really wanted to start it and the message you were trying to prevail and put out there. And as long as you know that it's reaching one person, or, a group of people or a small group, however small it is, you're still reaching out to somebody. So you might be helping them during their, dark time or whatever they're going through as well. So I wouldn't look at it. I have those times too where it's like, what the hell am I doing? But you have to take back and be like, okay, well, it's doing something. So let me stop self-sabotaging myself and, keep going, because it's working. It's just not working the way that society or people say that it should work.
Right.
But that's the process too. So once you see how far you've come from where you started, that helps inspire you as well. And then you want to keep going. And then you get this general like support system and base. And you're like, oh, well, I got to keep going for them. Like, I don't want to stop.
And all good things take time, right? Like I've heard this so many times, that all good things take time. And my friend, who whenever I'm down on myself, she's like, Brie, you don't want to be a trend. You don't want to be a viral trend. You want to be bigger than that. You want,
So how do you think COVID is or has affected small, like based artists? Like, has it affected you? And how you painting or how you painted during that time? Because, the pandemic was like in 2020, we're in 2021 now, but it's still going on. Like, is it still affecting you? Or when it first started, how did it affect your work? Or do you know any smaller artists that are friends with you? Has it affected them?
I would say business-wise, I've actually never done better than I did last year. And which is honestly so surprising and crazy to say. But the positive thing about everyone staying in their house is that everyone wants to make their house look better. You know, you saw all those DIY, like, we're redoing our kitchen. Like, I'm pretty sure I saw that Lowe's business was like, you know, Lowe's and Home Depot, everyone was booming because everyone was doing DIY projects. And for myself, at least, people were really interested in hanging art in their house, trying to brighten things up. It's like, if we're going to spend a year in here, might as well have something to look at other than the TV. So for business, I did pretty well. It's always nice to have more time. I never had time really to paint, and I was doing like 3 other jobs last year, or 2019. So my time was so much more limited, and now I've come to a point where I am painting more than I am doing any other work, which is super awesome for me. And it's given me the confidence to say, like, hey, I lost my job twice. I'm fine. I'm gonna recover. I'm gonna be fine. Like, and I'm gonna push through it. And I've always done really well when my back is up against the wall and there's negative $13 in my bank account, and the government is like, well, you know, here's $800. Hope it lasts you the rest of the year. So, in that, having my back against the wall was like really helpful. I'd say the way that COVID affected my ability to reach out to other artists, and, you know, like, I had a whole group of friends in the creative field, and they weren't painters, they were musicians and graphic designers, and I've seen them probably twice in the past year. And that honestly has been the hardest, because when I was talking earlier about, you know, some of my friends don't know how to ask me, they don't know how to, you know, make conversation about my job. Those were the people I went to, and we got to share our successes, and we got to share, you know, what we were scared of and what we were working on and what we were having trouble with. And having that group of creatives to kind of keep you grounded and keep you motivated and keep you inspired is so important. And I just haven't had it. It's the past year. It's been so hard to not, you know, be in a big room with them and talk about creative things. So that's probably like the one thing that I really has been upsetting to me, and like something that's kind of held me back. And I do think too, my inspiration has been more from within myself, and like self-reflective, and almost, I don't want to say self-centered in a derogatory way, but my art has been about myself for the past year, because I've been only with myself for the past year. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, when you're not seeing the world as much and not talking to strangers, and I'm someone who would like chat with the person behind me at Starbucks. That's always been my personality. So when I haven't had that, or the human interaction, it's like, well, I'm kind of just painting about me. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it makes me feel guilty, because I'm like, I want to like share stories. That's my goal. I want to share stories, and I'm only sharing it about myself. So I'm happy I've gotten the commissions where I like actually ask people, you know, and like I can kind of get to know them. But I would say like 2 years ago, I was so much more inspired by the daily interactions I had with people. And now I haven't had that. And I think that that's why Lady Justice was like such a burst of energy for me, because I was actually out in the world and getting involved and, you know, listening to people talk and listening. Like, when you're listening, you're more likely to be inspired than when you're mumbling to yourself in the bathroom. It's just going to be how it is. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of a little wrap up of 2020.
So enough about 2020. Everybody hates 2020. But the future. What's next for the Bree Show? Where do you see yourself going? What do you manifest?
Manifest. Yes. I've heard this works.
It do. It do.
My number one on my goal sheet is to start doing murals, big or small. I want them on fences. I want them in cafes, in boutiques, on windows. I don't care who for. I mean, I want them to align with my values of whatever company I'm doing, but I don't, it doesn't matter who it is. I just want my art to be in a place with the public eye, something that people can take the pics for the gram next to. And I think I think that's more of my like, this is a great way for me to get my name out there and also use big spaces, because I love painting big art. Like, I love painting art on big canvases, big spaces. And then I want to do more things like this. I want to like talk to different creatives and collaborate, and I would love to do like live art again. I've done it twice and I loved it so much. I like really want to do that. So if you guys ever host a live podcast, I'll just be in the back splashing.
We're actually going to talk to you about that after this recording. So
Yeah.
yes, stay tuned, y'all.
So do you have any projects that you're working on right now, like that you can maybe show us?
Well, I just wrapped up this piece.
Okay.
I have a few other commissions I'm working on, and then other than that, I'm kind of working more on like the merch side of things. So I have my Love Artists While They Live little tagline that I'm working with, and I just want some like smaller items that represent me and spread the good word of hustling and kindness and all those good things. Maybe show off my weird side, I guess. That'll be my next goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of just working on the merch side. It takes a little bit longer. There's a little less to show. You kind of got to do the whole production thing before you get too excited and share it. So
That's awesome. Well, we already know great things are going to be in store for you.
thank you.
Because if you can get through the pandemic, you definitely going to get through all these next few years, definitely. So, and we will collaborate.
Yes.
We literally have an idea that we talked about yesterday, and then we also may have you as a spotlight segment for the next upcoming season. So look out for that. So
Awesome.
let the fam know, where can they find you, dropping your socials, websites. If your art's going to be presented anywhere, let them know how they connect with you.
My website is thebrieshow.org. .org.
Oh, you official. She got an org.
We don't know why. And then my Instagram is super long, so bear with me, but it's at @thebrieshow_ featuring creative.
Yeah, that's too much.
I know, it's so long.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll drop her socials in the description below on whatever podcast platform that you listen to and here on YouTube. So make sure you guys go follow Brie. Other than that, Brie, it was good having you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yes, I wish we could see Bernie, but yeah.
He's running amok in my living room.
He's what?
He's running amok in my living room.
Oh gosh. Well, thank you, Brie. Yeah. Any last words you want to say to the fam?
No, thank you so much for having me, and I love this little community. Bernie and I listen to the podcast on our walks in the morning, so
hey.
You're literally a part of my daily life.
Love it. Love it. Well, Bernie is a part of the fam too. Thank you, Brie.
Mm-hmm.